All right, we have our analyst in the studio, Adeni Kunu, now to bring us insight into understanding this whole issue. It's nice to see you in the studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, how much understanding should Nigerians really have when it comes to this visa on arrival? A lot of people will say, well, it's not an internal thing, it's a relationship between Nigeria and others coming in. So if Nigerians don't know much about it, in that regard, it doesn't matter. But how much of it should Nigerians know and own if they have to?
There's something called reciprocity.
Yes.
Perhaps people don't understand. When somebody gives you A, you should be ready to give A in return. I'm yet to hear that every country in the northern parts of Africa allows Nigerians to come in by getting visas on arrival. Let's understand this. The Sahel region, the northern part of Africa, the central part of Africa is flooded with a lot of problems. Then coming into Nigeria, especially the porous borders of the north, oftentimes people say when they come in through the airports, how many of those people really come in by flying in? Many use the porous borders. My concern is how much of checks have we done to ensure that the people who are coming in really will depart after night, because it has 90 days validity. That's one of my concerns. And anytime you're told that something is not a problem, I can tell you it is indeed a problem, because the president said that it is not a problem in respect of security.
Absolutely. Because
if you want to allow people come into your country, what is the data? In all of the things I have seen since this initiative started in 2019, I've not been told that across the borders in this country, a certain number of people come in daily, because do not forget, security operatives have said it repeatedly on national and international platforms that our borders are porous. Because if you're talking about people coming into the country, you have to also look at the capacity of people who would actually use the air. So that said, another thing mentioned is about the business incentive that this brings. Now, one of the things you should say or you should look at is when you talk about the opportunities that are inherent in this visa on arrival, I say again that in what states of the Federation are people really intending to come to, especially with the concern? Let me say this. The reason Nigeria has a problem with the United States of America that has resulted in a ban that will begin effectively from February 22 is because certain levels of cooperation that were expected, as it were, weren't given. And because of that, we feel if you cannot share information, if you cannot take care of certain things, some of the documents I had access to have read before this time showed that the United States of America has certain recommendations for every country that allow our citizens come into their country. And Nigeria happens to be a country that has not fulfilled those requirements. It then tells you that if a country that is #1 in terms of security tells you that certain recommendations were given to you, and this thing it didn't start now. It started way beyond the Jonathan administration. Because when you talk about briefs, it is something that should go daily. Now, let me take you back to the 80s when the president was still donned his military jacket. Back then, he expected briefs from the foreign ministry every day, and they gave him briefs. The same president should also require of the likes of Geoffrey Onyema and people working in to give him needed briefs. The likes of the former government. But don't they give
briefs every day? From what we understand, these are briefs the president gets every morning. In fact, sometimes he gets it about 3 times a day.
I'm saying here that if indeed these briefs are there, and if indeed these briefs are acted upon, then we wouldn't have us suffer. Let me say suffer here, because there are Nigerians who really are processing papers to do legitimate businesses in the United States of America, maybe go to meet their loved ones or do certain things. But these people have denied. So talking about us, as much as this is laudable, we have to take care of a lot of things from the inside. Now tell me, we've not had a census since 2006. How do you account for the numbers of your people first before you account for the numbers of people coming into your country? So it's about getting things right.
So you have doubts about the projections?
It's not the right time to do it. There are certain things we need to take care of before this happens.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Adeni Kunu, for your insight into this.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
Thank
All
you.
right, Nigeria may be joining other countries like Kenya and Rwanda, but then one of the key reasons for this is to strengthen Nigeria's position as a key economy in Africa. Do you foresee that this new visa policy will be able to help us achieve that?
Now let me go to Ethiopia and Kenya. Kenya is the economic bulwark of the East African nation. Ethiopia, close to the Horn of Africa, has become a tourist attraction in the past 10 years. Two things have helped them. One, security. Despite the challenges of Kenya, it is repeatedly able to demonstrate that it has the capacity and, of course, the resolve to deal with those problems. Ethiopia has had relatively mild challenges in terms of, if you do, from a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of tourism. But what the second thing would be their national carriers. The national carrier of Nigeria has been run aground by those who believe that occupying public offices means perks and privileges. That means you don't pay for the services. Nigeria Airways was not run aground by you and I. We pay our fares, even if I was relatively a young man when it was still there. But the point remains that we don't have national carriers. When you make such visa policies, you connect it to businesses managed by governments to cash in on those. So we're talking about visa on arrival. What are the national businesses that can help the government earn non-oil taxes or remittances that can help shore up the revenue of government? That's not there. We talked about a highly celebrated Nigeria Air that is still very elusive right now, that has not been properly accounted for. These are the things some of us that are researchers take our time to look at. It is not as if we do not love our country. The place where we have the privileges of education and sustenance is here. But if we tell lies, then we, first of all, are a huge disappointment to the wives we are married to, and of course the children that look up to us. Therefore, if government talks about visa on arrival, let me tell you this. Last year, South Africa gave Ghana, one of our closest neighbors, the opportunity to come into the country without all the encumbrances of getting visa process. You come as a Ghanaian to South Africa, you're stamped in. Nigeria, the largest economy in Africa, has not enjoyed such privileges.
We're hoping that this will do that.
Excuse me, you don't talk about, excuse me, Ghana is less than 30 million in terms of population. For the records, you're talking about the economy of the country. We're far ahead of Ghana. When you talk about strategic relationships and international policies, you have to give consideration to the people that can help your revenue. So if the #1 economy on the African continent cannot be given visa on arrival by the second largest economy on the African continent, there is something more than meets the eyes. That is a fact of the matter.
All right.
We have to leave it here.
Yeah, so I think diplomatically Nigeria has to strategically work on a few
get everything
things
first from anywhere.
All right.
All right. Adeni Kunu, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.